Welcome to the Encore Entrepreneur Podcast, where the tech savvy meet the experienced. If you remember life before smartphones and are diving into today's business world, you're in the right place. I'm Lori Lyons, your host. My journey's had its share of ups and downs, from layoffs to launching my successful business as a marketing strategist and coach, website designer, and digital marketer. Each episode offers stories, strategies, and insights into the world of marketing and entrepreneurship. Are you ready to elevate your business? Let's get started. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today on the Encore Entrepreneur. Oh my gosh, we're in for such a treat. I am so excited to welcome Natalie Lilico to the show. Natalie, welcome, and I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you, Lori. It's a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
You're very welcome. And I always start out with telling how my guest and I met. And we are meeting for the first time. So we've chatted back and forth, we've emailed back and forth, but I was so fascinated by human design that I wanted to have somebody on as a guest. So we met through Google. So we met online and I, reached out to Natalie. She was exactly who I was looking for. And I am so excited to have the conversation and, tell you all about human design and just share her brilliance with you because you guys will love her. So welcome, Natalie. So let's get started. Tell us what you do.
Well, the short answer to that, Lori.
Short, long, it doesn't matter. Either way.
Well, is I help people discover their genius. And, knowing your genius is one thing, the next step is embracing it and actually living it and integrating it into our lives. And that's the main thing that I help, people, my clients that come to me. I'm a business and life coach. And as you mentioned, human design is one of the main tools that I use, which is a science and a typology based on our birth information. So you could say like it's related to astrology, but
Right.
It goes into much more depth about actually how to take the energy and our gifts and our talents and our challenges and how to navigate life. So, in business, we have a goal or an intention. We're going in a certain journey on a path. And how do we get there? Well, we can struggle along the way, or we could have some information that would help us get over the speed bumps or avoid the cracks in the sidewalks, I call them. So that's what I do. I help people get what they want using a science that is a little bit unusual.
That's fascinating because, okay, you mentioned that it was a little part of astrology. It's also part of some other modalities, isn't it? I mean, didn't you kind of take the best of
Yeah,
both?
the main piece of it is the I Ching, the 64 I Ching hexagrams, and anyone can go Google what the I Ching hexagrams are connected to our DNA. So here we go as the science. I'm actually looking at your genetic imprint. So there's the I Ching, there is the astrology or the planets, and then there's these boxes and squares, which is the chakra system.
Yeah.
And then how they all branch together is a combination of the Kabbalah.
So if this is tied into our DNA, it really doesn't change as we get older, does it? Or does outside influences affect what we are?
Okay, there's a couple of questions in there.
Yes, there
Yes,
is.
it is our DNA. And as we know from Bruce Lipton and others, is that we can actually change or develop or morph our DNA. So yes, it is a genetic imprint. And it has a full spectrum to it. I mean, there can be um, the negative or lower frequency side of that DNA, or there is a transition over to the higher frequency or the gift of that particular DNA. I'll give an example. The 63rd hexagram is, we call the gate of doubt. Now, there's a word that has a really bad rap. Everybody thinks, oh, I doubt myself. Well, that it has a lot more meaning to it than just that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the lower frequency is that you doubt yourself. But when you move it over and don't have such a harsh judgment on it, you can actually move it into, oh, I'm just suspecting that this might not, I might not have all the information yet, or that's I'm still in doubt. I'm not ready to make a decision yet. So that's
Right.
just one example of the spectrum,
Yeah.
you know, in a Reader's Digest version of it, of one
Yeah.
of the genetic codings that some people have. Not everybody has it. Um, some have it very strongly in their human
Yeah.
design chart, and some don't.
Well,
So.
wouldn't that be then what makes up the different types?
No, that isn't what makes up the different types. That's a
Oh.
whole nother conversation. But I can, if you,
Yeah.
I can give a
Can you,
summary of the four
yeah, can you
types.
get us the Reader's Digest? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the types come from when, as an analyst, as I am, I look at a chart and it's like, which one of those squares and triangles are colored in and how are they colored in tells me, oh, you fall into these. There's really four main categories,
Yeah.
but one of them has a subcategory. So the main
Okay. Yeah.
category, which almost everybody is, I am, you are, because I'm looking at your chart, were generators,
Yeah.
or builders is another word for it. There's someone that has sustaining energy, and there's someone that um, does really well when someone else started something and then they get asked into it, or they have a gut response to life.
Right.
It's like, oh, I like that color, or I don't, or I like that offer, or I don't. And then the other generator is called a manifesting generator. And I also call them specialists. So in the work environment, you know, they're very efficient. They can get things done. They don't like details. They just move right along. The very action oriented.
Yeah.
And so as you can imagine, you know, the downside of that is they might skip an important step, or they get really frustrated because they got to
Right.
go back and do the detail that they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So, but they're very action oriented and really get things done. Another type that's 7%, a smaller portion of the population, is the manifester or the initiator. And they're action oriented in a way that they really can have an impact. Their voice makes a big impact. These are people that do well in podcasts, or, you know, talking to large audience. They can really get people going. And but they need support. They don't have that sustaining energy. The other type, or there's two more, the one, the 20% of the planet, these are our projectors or coordinators. They're natural guides and leaders. They see things, they're very intelligent. They see and know things that the other energy types can't see because they're too busy being busy. But they're there to kind of like guide the process or guide people. And then the last type, which is very rare, it's only 1%, and they're called reflectors. And they're like they can be really the hub of the community. They're really um the judge, like
Right.
what's going on with everybody around here, and what's working and what's not working. And what, you know, so they um have a very special role, and it's very helpful if they
Yeah.
understand, if they happen to be one of that type, to understand why they're so different from everybody else.
Very fascinating. So, all right. So, but if okay, I'm trying to if the majority of the population is generator and
Manifesting generator.
manifesting generator, then how do how do you what difference does that? I mean, if everybody's kind of along the same plane, then how do you work with this? And this is probably where we're getting into the meat of what you do in the human design and all the different components to it.
Right. Well, you know, you and I are both pure generators,
Yeah.
but yet there's all these other parts of our design that really feed into,
Right.
like, how would that play out for Lori, or how would that play out for Natalie? I mean, it's just the beginning type, the beginning piece.
So that's
for
like the
people to
foundation.
understand. And then each of those types has a strategy for life. For the generator, they're here to wait to respond. They need to know, do you have passion? Do you have a gut response to that? That's part of their strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so that's like the baseline. But then to really get into your genius, your specialness, what else is playing out in your design? Where were the planets at the moment of your birth? And then also we look at another calculation is where were the planets at approximately 90 days before you were born? And that gives us your
Oh,
unconscious. So there's a lot there.
yeah.
My specialty is to translate this complex language into something that people can use today,
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to me for 5 minutes, somebody about their chart. I mean, I've had people say that one thing you said to me changed everything. It really helped me with this and this and this. So, or I could spend 2 weeks to talk to somebody about their chart.
Right, right. Well, and thank you for validating, because when I was researching this and looking through this, I'm like, this just seems really complicated. And I thought, am I missing something? So having like the 65 layers, and then you add in the other part of this, which you said, which I did not find in my research, was, you look at where the planets were 90 days before you were born. That's just like ding ding ding, everything. There's the astro, I mean, it all comes together. and and I just, at the risk of repeating myself again, this is fascinating. And I thought Enneagram was complex. Boy, because when you look at all the different ways that we can type our personalities, this human design really needs somebody to help you guide you through it and make sense of it. I mean, that,
Absolutely. And it goes beyond personality. That's the
yeah,
thing. It's like it goes into the unconscious. So, what did we inherit from our ancestors? We actually have a blueprint for people to really understand some of the things that they struggle with in life, that their sister doesn't struggle with it, their neighbors don't struggle with it. Why do I struggle with it? And
right.
it's like, well, here's why, and here's try this and
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah.
So it is very, very specific about different areas of our life. So since we're here talking about marketing and business, it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's like a whole nother slice over here. So we
Right.
can
Right.
just summarize parts of the human design chart. And what does that look like in business?
Okay. So you can take all of this and extrapolate and say, all right, this is probably how this is going to affect you, versus, it's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something similar along the
Well,
line.
it points
How
out
you
your
relate to
gifts.
your grandparents.
It's your gifts and talents. So, thank God for software that they can do an algorithm and take all this information from a human design chart. And accurate birth information is really important because there's some real details we can get into. But the software does an algorithm, takes all that information and puts it into this report, so to
Yeah.
speak. Another typology that's just for business. So, how are you in marketing? How do you negotiate? Are you someone that it's okay for you to be a go-getter and approach people, or is it better for you to wait and let people approach you? The list goes on, but that's just to make that
Right.
distinction. For someone that's fascinated with human design, it's great to take a course because it is a very logical system.
Yeah.
It's like first you learn this, first you learn about the type, and then you learn about this, and then, so it breaks it down so that it's not so overwhelming.
Right.
And when I got into human design in 1999, there wasn't a whole lot online, and I had the privilege to study in person with people, so I really got to see what did it look like in real life. It wasn't just this course online. So
Right.
I really got an opportunity to really embody, like the 60, what does the 63 gate of doubt, what's
Right. Right.
that really look like? What's that feel like energetically? So,
So would it be fair to say, if we're looking at how our human design type, unlike some of the other systems like the Enneagram or DISC, or those are personality types and stuff, it's always helpful to know what the other person is. With human design, you just need to know what you are, not necessarily. I mean, I guess I could ask my clients their birth date, their time of date, and go that route. But it really is just how I approach it. Is that a fair statement?
Well, and there's a whole nother category about relationships. I mean, and that's what life
Yeah,
is about.
yeah,
Business is
yeah,
about relationship.
yeah,
Life is about relationships. So yes, you do, first learn about who you are and then learn about your sister or your, partner
yeah,
or,
yeah.
whoever you're working with. I mean, if you want to work with me in any way, I have to have your human design because then I know what's important to you. I know what satisfies you. I know how to communicate differently to you. It, it's just, so yes, we
Okay.
do there is a whole study for relationship and putting two charts together. And in business, there's one in putting groups of 3 or more together and 16 or more together
Wow.
is
Yeah.
part of the business study of human design.
So if I wanted to find out, because you mentioned a class, if I wanted to find out more about it, then do you teach the classes? Is this something that could reach out to you for? And we're not wrapping
I
up. I'm just want to ask while I'm
Sure.
thinking.
Well, I would send people to where I am certified through, which is there's two websites. There's Jovian Archives with an S on the end.com. That's the main founder's website, and you can buy courses. They've got stuff for beginners.
Yeah.
And then IHDS, the International Human Design School. I think it's
Yeah.
ihds.com. That's the school if somebody wants to take a course. Like the beginning course is called Living Your Design. I am certified to teach that. I haven't done it in a long time. I, uh,
Yeah.
I like coaching and really just getting in. I like getting in the weeds with people with
Right, right,
what's
right.
really going on and helping them find solutions to what it is that's not working for them and how they can have it work better.
So, all right, so let's go there. Let's take that path, in business, because we talked about it. You brought up a few minutes ago, with looking at my human design type. How would how would I know? Like, typically, do the types have? And maybe I'm focusing on too much of the types because I know there's a whole lot more underneath that. But how do you take that then and help yourself? Like, does it help you adjust for weaknesses? Does it help you adjust, like, play to your strengths? Does it help you say, all right, this is something that you might want to get support in because this is not something that comes naturally to you? How is the best way to use human design from a business standpoint and a marketing standpoint?
Well, you said looking at your design. So let's just take that you heard about human design. You felt something in your body.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I got to know about that. That's perfect for you. You follow that versus your energy shuts down or it contracts.
Right.
So all the generators and manifesting generators that are listening to this tip helps for you. If you see the new bicycle or the new outfit and you feel this lift or an expansion, that's a yes. That's a gut response. If you see something or a person and you're like, it kind of contracts, it's like,
Right.
that's a no, or I don't have enough information right now.
Yeah.
So just for you to just like, what is it that the people that you want to interview, you've got to have some juice for it, or it's like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that's the basics of it. You happen to have in your human design one of the uh, let's see, keep the language here consistent. Those numbers, those I Ching numbers, you have a couple of the I Ching numbers that represent the entrepreneur. So you have an intuitive sense about patterns and noticing
Yeah.
what's working, and very much in marketing, what are the patterns that are working in marketing and how to deliver that message, so and so you're natural.
Well,
in
thank you.
what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genetically coded for you. So if you and I were going to work together, we would dissect that even more. And you could tell me what kinds of things are coming up in your work that's challenging you, or you'd like to do more of, or why is this working and why is this not working? And there may be some answers in that or something else in your
Right.
design that would help you overcome or achieve quicker. It's like, we're all at point A and we want to get to point B. And
Yeah.
there's a path. And I tell my clients, you can hire me, you can get to point A to point B all on your own. You don't need me. You're an intelligent
Right.
human. But I can certainly shorten that path and make that path a little
Right.
bit easier. And then you might have a different point B that you want to get to.
Yeah. So, so what I heard you say at the beginning was kind of when you were talking about, what do you feel, or are you feeling yes, are you feeling it's that's where to me that's where intuition lies. That's where, you're listening to your gut, and it's that part of that type of human design that's in us that said some of us have a stronger intuition than others. Some of us, or some of us are more attuned to that than others. Is that, I mean, was I
Yes. Well,
hearing
there are
that
two things.
correctly? Yeah.
There's a gut reaction and there's an instinct. So they're two different energy centers. You happen to have both of them. You happen to have a very strong intuition.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you have an intuitive sense. You have an instinct. And so some people do have stronger instincts or more of a reliable way, like the hair in the
Yeah.
back of my neck
Yeah.
goes up, or I hear a bell go off, or
Oh, yeah.
I have a taste in my mouth when
Yeah.
something isn't right.
Yeah.
Some people have that consistently and others people don't. It just happens however it happens.
Yeah.
Their intuition, because we all are intuitive beings.
Yes.
It
Yes.
just
I
works
agree with
different.
you. Yeah, and
Yes.
it's funny because it's funny you said that I have a strong one, because for a long time I was like, I'm not intuitive at all. And finally, a friend of mine years ago, she said, you are very intuitive. You just don't, you haven't developed it. You haven't let it come forward. You haven't named it. So I remember sitting in a car, and I don't know, I was waiting in front of Trader Joe's or something. I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, a song came on and I thought, oh, I would, I'd love to hear Hootie and the Blowfish. It was just really one of those things that came to me. Like, there's a wagon wheel. I love that song. It was the very next song that came on. So I called her and I said, you're right. I really do have intuition. I just intuited Hootie and the Blowfish. I mean, it was just one of those things that was really funny, but it kind of, that small thing kind of woke me up and said, maybe I should start paying attention to this voice or the bell or the taste in your mouth, because until that moment, I really hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
So what,
Absolutely. And so
yes,
what's great, human design gives people that have a configuration like yours or whatever their configuration is, but since we're talking about the
yeah,
intuitive aspect of it, it gives them permission. Your friend gave you permission, and then this
yeah,
example came, and it's like, well, what else is being said that I'm like ignoring, right?
right, right.
Yeah, so it's a permission
Mhm.
to be your authentic self.
That is so cool. I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm just, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm just smiling the whole time, because this is just fascinating. And take some time and learn more about it, because there's so much, especially if you like, because I love that there's a scientific component to it, that you can say there's this in the DNA. Still blown away by that it's 90 days before you're born, because I guess the universe knows the exact day you're going to be born to know the 90, but you take the day of birth and you look back 90 days, and that's, I mean, so explain that to me a little bit, the marriage of that, because
Okay,
I'm,
well, the
I'm
software
jumping
does,
all over the place, because I'm just,
right.
my
That's
brain, I have frog
okay.
brain.
That's okay. No, the software does that, thank goodness. Wait, I don't have to calculate it like
Yeah,
they did in the very early
right.
days. This came through in 1987. And
Wow.
that's a whole story in itself. You can find that on
Yeah.
jovianarchive.com. But yeah, it doesn't matter if a child is premature. it still gets calculated approximately 90 days before the birth. They say that's when the adrenal, excuse me, the cortex
Yeah.
gets its first blast of information. And so when you look at a human design chart, you're going to see that there's certain numbers that are highlighted in black and certain numbers that are highlighted in red of the 64 hexagrams. And so the two come together. And as an analyst, I mean, it means something
Yeah.
that it's like, oh, this is something on their personality side. So when I talk about that trait or that skill or that ability or that tendency, when it's on the personality side, they go, yep, absolutely. I see myself do that all the time. You're right on. I knew that. And then when I talk about what's on the red side, they're like, yeah, it's like you can't really see what's in the
Right.
unconscious. And so what happens as we move through life is that other people reflect to us what they see on the red side. And that's how we and through our dreams or meditation or hypnotherapy, there's a lot of ways to learn about what's going on in the unconscious, and through human design, because we can name it just like somebody named your instinct. We
Yeah.
can name things that is a trait or a tendency that's in the unconscious to help you gain more access to that.
Wow. Mhm. Yeah, I have so many questions I'm trying to figure out, and we have I- what are you doing for the next 3 hours? It's like, sorry, if you're my next appointment, we're canceled. But all right, so then let's jump back then to applying all this in business, because what I'm hearing is with human design, yes, we want to, it affects the way we build our relationships and affects the way that we work with our business. Is it almost like a predetermined thing then, that or
Well,
how?
it's a tendency, it's a skill. It's like if, you know, the piece that's for business, I say it's about our future. I use it for people that are career still working jobs and changing careers, and they want to get fit in the right department with the right person. They really want to present themselves like, no, this is what I'm really good at. I'm a great presenter in front of people, or I'm a go-getter, or I'm not a go-getter. I need to be in the sales department where the phone calls come in
Right.
instead of the phone calls go out.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So that kind of thing, how are you, like I mentioned earlier about in negotiations, how assertive are you?
Yeah.
Where's your energy? Where do you have reliable energy and skills and talents? And how does that fit for what you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or want to become an entrepreneur? I think there's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs that are working in business. I mean, it's a spirit,
Right.
it's like they work a job and it's their business.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I see another question coming.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening, but formulating. So it's almost, I mean, and I'm asking this carefully because I don't want to diminish, but you can almost use this like a career assessment kind of thing. Because I was thinking about all the career assessment tests that you take, and you can avoid all that if you know
Oh,
what you're.
absolutely. Absolutely. The person that developed the report that I use, the Genius Report, and we'll talk about that at the very end, she was a recruiter and in marketing. So it's all written in business
Yeah.
language. Absolutely. I got two people just last week. They're both changing jobs, and we did their report, and I'm like, so you can use that language. You can use it in your resume. You can use that in the interview. This is your talent. Over here, you're not someone that does all those details. You'll write the outline, but you're not going to go in and write all the emails. I mean, it can get very
Yeah.
detailed about pointing out what you're really good at. And it's like, well, it doesn't mean that you never are going to write the emails. It's like, here's my genius.
Yeah.
This is what I'm good. I'm good at the big picture and helping
Right.
you find out how to get there.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about the emails. I have a very good friend who, she's like, "Oh, I gotta write an email." Like, what are you writing your email back? I've got to reply to this question. Like, well, answer the question. But she gets so stressed over it, because that's probably, if we looked at her type and her DNA, that would probably be in there. So, all right. So when you were talking, this question came is, so I work a lot with my clients, and website design work is very detailed work. There's a lot of details that we have to have. It's also very visual. And occasionally, the way we do ours probably goes more to how I like to work versus what they're comfortable with working. So by using some of the language from my type, that would help determine, do I need to change my style a little bit so they're more comfortable working with me? Or if they're very detailed, they're a detailed spreadsheet person, they're probably not a good client for me. So is there a way to determine that, or just by talking about your
Well, they have that
ability?
potential. So there is a couple of different configurations in the human design chart that talk about details. Like there's people that the other people think they're antisocial because when they're focused and concentrated on something, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
There's another part that in human for business where they're great at naming things and organizing things. They're great in writing training books or teaching
Process.
in a very systemized way. So yes, there's clues whether someone is very detailed. That's their potential. Now, whether they've resisted it or they've had some other
Right.
thing interfere with their natural genius, that's a whole nother
Right.
story. So it's like we look at people's chart at what their potential is, then we have a conversation with them to see how aware are they, what's their self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like, to use your example, it's like I was not aware how intuitive I was. Somebody said something, they pointed it out, and now I've got this whole new world that I'm
Right.
experiencing and how I live my life.
Right. Yeah, and I like what you said about permission, because that was interesting. So when you're looking at and working on what your human design type is, or like all the different components of it, where does mindset and limiting beliefs, such hot words right now, and people talk about, oh, it's your mindset, that's a limiting belief. Does that play into this at all, or does human design override that, or can it override that?
Well, when we talk about mindset, uh, and I talk a lot about mindset as well. And yes, human design has its part in that, but it's also the human condition, you
Yeah.
know, the ego, the condition of the mind, that voice in our head that tries to keep us small. And yes, some people have more difficulty with that than others. And yes, I can see that in their human design, but it's still the human condition about how the mind wants to keep us small. And the higher mind wants us to expand and know that we are unlimited beings.
Interesting. Okay. So that's your smaller mind talking when you're bringing up limiting beliefs. And so if you know what your human design is, you can counteract a different mindset, or a negative mindset and a limiting belief, with knowledge from your human design. Did that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And in all different areas. I mean,
Okay.
each of
That's really
those
cool.
squares, the energy centers, each of those squares and diamonds, there's 9 of them.
Yeah.
They also hold a voice.
You got, no wonder everybody's got voices in their head. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. That's interesting. That's interesting. Oh my gosh. We could go on forever. I told you this was going to be 30 to 35 minutes. So we're already at 34. So tell us, all right, in the audience, if you don't take her up on this, you just got to take her up. So tell us what you have for everybody in the audience.
What I have for your audience, it's people are here about their marketing and their business, or if they're going to go into business. So I'm offering a free 1-page summary that is business related only. It doesn't go into the type and the
Yes.
64 and all that other stuff. It's just, what I said, like the algorithms, the report. And so it's
Right.
called the Genius Report Compact. And if you email me, I'll send you your free report. And again, it helps if you have exact birth time
Yeah.
for this particular report. That's not absolutely necessary, but if you ever think you're going to work with me or have a session and just learn more about it, please, get your birth certificate and find your exact
Right.
birth time. So I need the date, the time and location, and I have the software to generate the free report, and I will send that to you. And along with some videos, I have videos on YouTube that explain this particular report,
That's
and
amazing.
you can diagnose yourself.
Yeah. That is so cool. When we were talking beforehand, she said, I'm like, holy moly, that's awesome. So thank you on
Yeah, it's a
behalf of
great
the audience.
starting
Yeah,
point for people to see
absolutely.
what the validity of this is for our
Yeah.
businesses.
And knowledge is power. And this is just another component of what makes us who we are that we need to know. It's almost like you need an accountant, you need a bookkeeper, you need a marketing person, you need to know your human design background. So
Yes, that
thank
too.
you.
And also just, it is a typology. It's just a
Yeah.
non-traditional one because my background is in sales. So I had the disc and the
Yeah.
Berkman and, so many others in the past. And so it was all this typology assessments. And then when I found human design, I was like, whoa,
Bingo.
this answers a lot of questions, and I can really help a lot of people because I can get very specific.
Yes. Yes. It's just fascinating. And you guys forgive me for, some of the questions. There's just so much here and it's so fascinating to me. I was trying to like ask really good questions so that the audience would learn more and be excited because I'm excited about it. So thank you, Natalie, so much for being here. My gosh, this was, as you can tell, I'm gushing. So it's thank you for being here. And I look forward to carrying on and being in each other's world and orbit now. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be part of your circle of influence.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. You know, there's some cool stuff to choose from for our next episode. So I'm going to marinate on this, what we need to talk about, and then it'll be a surprise for the next episode. So thank you again, Natalie, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The Encore Entrepreneur. I hope you found inspiration and insight in today's episode of The Encore Entrepreneur. Our journey together continues weekly, bringing you more stories, strategies, and insights designed to elevate your Encore business. Don't forget to check back in next Tuesday for our newest episode. And join our Facebook group, Make Your Marketing Simple, a community of like-minded business owners that are growing their businesses. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners just like you. Thank you for tuning in. Now take what you've learned today and turn it into action. See you next week, ready for more insights.